In 1998, the Indian finance minister had a plan.
Right.
He was backed by a super powerful government, and he wanted to raise the price of urea, which is, a really crucial fertilizer. And on paper, he completely had the authority to do it.
He did, yeah.
But within just a few days, he was forced to totally scrap the plan. And the wild thing is, it wasn't because of a court order
No.
or like an election or anything. It was because a room full of politicians just erupted.
Yeah.
I mean, they staged these massive walkouts. They rocked the House for 2 days straight and basically brought the entire central government to an absolute standstill.
It's a crazy story, but it's so revealing.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into the Indian legislature, the parliament. And our mission here is to really extract the core mechanisms of how this massive democratic engine actually functions.
Right, because it's not what people think.
No, not at all. We're stripping away all that dense, political jargon to show you exactly why this is anything but some boring, dusty, rubber stamp law factory.
It is the absolute center of the democratic political process in India. And that opening example you just gave perfectly illustrates why.
Yeah.
Because you can have a strong cabinet, you can have a massive electoral majority, but you cannot simply rule by decree.
You can't just do whatever you want.
Exactly. The government has to face Parliament every single day they are in session, and they have to answer to its satisfaction.
Or else.
Right, or else. Because if that dynamic fails, you run the risk of sliding into a cabinet dictatorship where the executive branch essentially just does whatever it wants, completely unchecked.
Right, which defeats the whole purpose of the democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we all know the basic setup here. You have the Lok Sabha, the House of the People, where the members hold a direct mandate from you, the voters.
Directly elected, yes. Currently 543 constituencies, which is a number that's actually been frozen since the 1971 census.
Right, the 1971 census. And then on the other side, you have the Rajya Sabha, the Council of States, which is indirectly elected.
Right, elected by the state legislative assemblies.
But the real friction, the really interesting part, happens because of their mismatched electoral timelines.
Right.
Right? Because a ruling party might, completely sweep a general election and totally dominate the Lok Sabha.
Oh, absolutely.
But they can't instantly control the Rajya Sabha.
Exactly, and that's by design. The Rajya Sabha is known as the permanent house. It is never fully dissolved.
And never.
Never. Its members serve 6-year terms, and those terms are strictly staggered. So only 1/3 of the House is up for election every 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So think about it. As a government, you might have won a massive landslide victory today, but you have to wait years for those Rajya Sabha seats to rotate out.
So it's like a built-in...
It's a built-in speed bump, exactly. For any radical overnight agenda, you are forced to negotiate.
I love that. And, the way those seats are distributed in the Rajya Sabha is completely different from how we see upper houses operate in other federal systems around the world.
It really is.
Take the United States, for example. The U.S. Senate uses symmetrical representation. Every single state gets exactly 2 senators. It doesn't matter if it's massive California or, like, tiny Wyoming.
2 seats each. Right.
But India completely rejected that model.
Well, they had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the framers of the Constitution realized early on that if they use symmetrical representation in a country with India's sheer scale and diversity, the most populous states would be severely politically marginalized.
That makes sense.
So India allocates those Rajya Sabha seats strictly by population. You have a highly populous state like Uttar Pradesh sending 31 members to the upper house,
Or you want.
while a geographically small, less populous state like Sikkim sends just 1.
Just 1. It's fascinating when you compare it to other global systems, too. Like, take Germany's upper house, the Bundesrat. They also represent the federal states, but those members are actually appointed directly by the state government.
Yes.
And under German law, all members from a specific state have to vote together as a single unified bloc.
Which is wild.
Right. But India doesn't do that at all. Indian members of the Rajya Sabha vote individually, which means they often end up representing the interests of their national political parties just as much, if not more, than the specific state that sent them there in the first place.
Which fundamentally shifts the entire dynamic of how legislation gets negotiated.
Yeah.
You aren't just trying to win over, say, the state of Maharashtra.
Right.
You are trying to win over specific party coalitions whose members just happen to be seated in the upper house.
Okay, let's unpack this because there is one detail about the makeup of the Rajya Sabha that has always seemed, a bit strange to me.
The nominated members.
Yes. Beyond the politicians, the President of India nominates 12 members to the Rajya Sabha who are specifically chosen for their contributions to literature, science, art, and social service.
Right.
And I have to push back on this. Why are we putting acclaimed poets and like famous athletes in a legislative body? Whom do they actually represent?
It's a fair question.
If we were talking about the gritty, high-stakes business of politics and holding the executive accountable, do they really contribute?
It is a very common critique, I'll give you that, because if you are a celebrated novelist, you probably don't have a constituency of angry voters demanding better infrastructure in your district, right?
Exactly.
But the underlying philosophy actually goes all the way back to the Constituent Assembly debates. Specifically, there was this argument made by Purnima Banerjee in 1949.
Okay.
The upper house is designed to be a revising body. So by nominating these 12 individuals, the Constitution creates a space for people who would otherwise completely avoid the rough and tumble of active partisan politics.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it allows them to provide immense advisory value. They bring a level of specialized expertise and, more importantly, just a completely different kind of life experience to the debates.
Because they don't have to worry about getting reelected.
Exactly. They are largely free from the intense electoral pressures that career politicians face every day.
So it's almost like an injection of outside perspective to an otherwise really closed political ecosystem.
Precisely.
Okay, fair enough. But let's look at the actual clash of these two houses. We have the directly elected Lok Sabha on one side and the permanent staggered Rajya Sabha on the other.
The arena.
Right, the arena. When these two rooms inevitably disagree on the direction of the country, who actually holds the cards? Who wins?
Well, on a lot of major issues, they are actually co-equal.
Really?
Yeah. If you are passing a standard non-money bill or say you're amending the Constitution, both houses have equal power.
Okay.
They also share equal power when it comes to the really heavy constitutional machinery, like impeaching the president or removing Supreme Court judges.
Got it.
Interestingly, though, if you want to remove the vice president of India, that specific procedure can only be initiated in the Rajya Sabha.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. But practically speaking, if the Lok Sabha is directly elected by the people, shouldn't they have the ultimate say?
In what sense?
Well, if you control the purse strings, you control the country, right? There has to be a mechanism where the direct mandate of the public overrides the upper house.
And there is.
Okay.
The Lok Sabha holds the ultimate trump card, and it's called the money bill.
The money bill.
Yes. Only the Lok Sabha can introduce a money bill, and crucially, only the Lok Sabha can reject one.
Okay, so the Rajya Sabha can't touch it.
Well, if the Lok Sabha passes a budget or a tax change, the Rajya Sabha cannot strike it down. The absolute most the Rajya Sabha can do is suggest amendments, or they can delay the bill for a maximum of 14 days.
Just 14 days. That's it.
That's it. If they sit on it for 15 days, it is deemed passed by default.
Yeah.
Furthermore, the Council of Ministers, the actual government, is responsible only to the Lok Sabha. The Rajya Sabha can criticize the Prime Minister all day long, they can debate endlessly, but they do not have the constitutional mechanism to vote the government out of power.
Huh. It's almost like, the Lok Sabha is the aggressive sales department of a massive corporation.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right. Because they're the ones directly facing the clients, the voters. So they alone get to control the company's wallet. They decide what gets spent and where.
Yes.
But the Rajya Sabha is like the legal compliance board. They can't set the budget, but they make sure the regional branches aren't being totally trampled by the sales team's grand visions.
What's fascinating here is the underlying democratic logic behind that specific balance of power. Because you have to ask, why does the Lok Sabha get the wallet and the power to dismiss the government? Because in a democracy, you, the public, are the final authority.
Right, the direct mandate.
Exactly. Therefore, the body with the direct, unfiltered mandate from the citizens must inherently possess the most crucial powers of finance and executive survival.
But the Rajya Sabha isn't toothless, right?
Okay.
They have a very specific structural shield to protect those regional branches.
Oh, definitely.
Like, if the Union Parliament wants to take a matter that is traditionally under the strict control of the state government, say, something from the state list, like local policing or agriculture, and they want to move it to the union list or concurrent list so the central government can control it, the Rajya Sabha must give its approval.
Yes.
The Lok Sabha cannot unilaterally rewrite the federal structure of the country.
Precisely. They are the absolute guardians of federalism in that regard.
Okay, but passing a law is only half the battle, because if a government has a massive majority, they could technically pass whatever they want, right?
In theory.
So what stops them from just rewriting the rules of the country entirely? How does a bill actually make its way through this massive apparatus without just collapsing under the weight of, like, 700 plus politicians yelling at each other.
This is where you have to completely separate the textbook diagram of how a bill becomes a law from the gritty, messy reality of lawmaking.
Yeah, the real world.
Exactly, because a bill is not merely a legal procedure. It is a highly calculated political act. Long before a bill is ever formally introduced on the floor, its fate is already being decided by election promises, intense pressure from interest groups, media narratives, and, of course, the fragile demands of coalition partners.
So it's basically decided before they even walk in the room.
In many ways, yes. The textbook might simply state that, Parliament makes laws, but in reality, the cabinet essentially dictates the substance and the timing of almost all major legislation. No significant bill sees the light of day without the cabinet's explicit approval.
And the actual drafting of the legal language, I'm assuming that's not being written by the members of Parliament scribbling on notepads during a debate.
No. It's drafted by the bureaucracy. If the government is changing, say, an environmental regulation, the highly specialized bureaucrats in the law ministry and the environment ministry are the ones writing the actual clauses.
Exactly. Okay, so formally, a bill is introduced. If it's brought forward by a minister, it's called a government bill, right?
Right. And if it's introduced by a regular member of parliament who isn't a minister, it's a private member's bill.
But those never pass.
Right. Honestly, a private member's bill has virtually zero chance of passing unless the government decides to actively support it.
Right. So from there, it typically goes to a committee, then back to the House for debate and voting, and then over to the other House. And if both agree, it lands on the president's desk for final assent.
That's the standard path, yes.
But what happens when that system just totally breaks down? Say the Lok Sabha passes a sweeping, controversial, non-money bill, and the Rajya Sabha, acting as that federal shield we talked about, absolutely refuses to pass it. They're completely deadlocked. What's the mechanism to break the tie?
In that rare case, the Constitution provides for a joint session of Parliament.
A joint session.
Yes. The president summons both houses to sit together in one room and vote on the bill as a single body.
Okay.
But here's the catch, and it goes right back to the sheer numbers.
Right, the 543 versus 250.
Exactly. The Lok Sabha has 543 members. The Rajya Sabha has a maximum of 250. So because of that massive numerical advantage, historically, when these rare joint sessions happen, the final decision almost always swings in favor of the Lok Sabha's preference.
So even in a deadlock, the direct mandate has a really heavy thumb on the scale.
Always.
But going back to the actual heavy lifting of making a law, you mentioned committees a moment ago, this seems like the hidden engine of the entire legislature.
They absolutely are. People don't realize this, but Parliament only meets during specific scheduled sessions throughout the year.
Right, they aren't there year-round.
No. So they physically do not have the time to sit on the floor of the House and debate every single line of a 1,000-page regulatory bill. It's just not possible.
But what do?
So starting in 1983, India developed this really robust system of departmental related standing committees.
Okay.
There are over 20 of them today.
They act as miniature legislatures.
Yes, and this is where the real granular, deeply technical work happens. These committees do the in-depth studying of an issue. They scrutinize the specific demands for grants made by various ministries, they look into departmental expenditures, and they interview external experts.
So they do the homework.
Exactly. And beyond the standing committees, you also have joint parliamentary committees, or JPCs.
Right. You hear about those in the news a lot.
Yes, because they are often convened to investigate massive complex issues like high-profile financial irregularities or major corruption scandals. And crucially, members from both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha sit on these committees together.
Let me challenge that, though.
Sure.
Because we just established that the cabinet basically dictates the legislation, right? So aren't these committees just another rubber stamp for the executive branch? I mean, if the ruling party controls the committees, aren't they just doing the government's homework for them so it looks legitimate?
It's a very fair suspicion, but the reality is actually much more nuanced than that. Because committee meetings happen behind closed doors. They are away from the television cameras. They are away from the immediate, intense pressure of the daily news cycle.
So they aren't performing for the cameras.
Exactly. Because of that privacy, members often act much more cooperatively and objectively than they do on the floor of the House.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, the committee system drastically reduces the technical burden on the Parliament floor. And while they are technically just advisory, when a committee finishes a deeply researched report and sends it back to the main House, Parliament rarely rejects their core suggestions. It's a mechanism that forces real expertise into a highly partisan environment.
Okay, so lawmaking is one function. But the central argument here from the source material is that the most vital function of Parliament isn't actually making laws at all.
No, it's not.
It's ensuring the government, the massive, incredibly powerful executive branch, doesn't overstep its bounds. How do they actually leash the executive? What are the mechanisms of control?
The most visible instrument of control is deliberation, and specifically the question hour.
Question hour.
Yes, this is a dedicated hour that happens every single day. Parliament is in session, and it is entirely designed to trap the government.
I love that.
Ministers are forced to physically stand up in the House and respond to searching, aggressive questions from members of Parliament.
And the mechanism here is public exposure, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about getting a technical answer. It's about forcing a minister on the record.
Exactly. The attendance is incredibly high during question hour. Members demand hard data on, price rises, black marketing, food availability, civil rights atrocities, anything.
And if they mess up.
If a minister fumbles a question about inflation or provides data that completely contradicts reality, the opposition takes that recorded answer straight to the media.
Wow.
It creates an instant PR crisis that can literally threaten the survival of a fragile coalition. It is a direct daily interrogation. And there's also the 0 hour, which follows, where members can raise urgent matters without prior notice.
Oh, like a wild card round.
Basically, yes. Although ministers aren't strictly bound to reply to those in the same way.
Right. Then you have the mechanism of ratification. Just because the cabinet wants a law doesn't mean it magically happens, especially if they lack a majority in the upper house.
Right.
A prime example from the text was the Prevention of Terrorism Bill in 2002.
Yes, POTA.
The government pushed it incredibly hard, but it was flat out rejected by the Rajya Sabha. It forced a massive political reckoning.
And we cannot forget financial control. This is huge.
The wallet again?
The wallet.
Yeah.
The government is essentially powerless without money. They cannot levy a single new tax, nor can they spend a single rupee of public money without the Lok Sabha's express approval.
So they use the budget as a leash.
Yes. Aided by the Independent Controller and Auditor General and the Public Accounts Committees, the Parliament inquires into any misuse or mismanagement of funds. By controlling the purse strings, they control the policy.
And if all those daily checks and balances fail, they have the nuclear option.
The no confidence motion.
Yes, the ultimate weapon.
It truly is. If the government loses the support of the majority in the Lok Sabha, they are finished.
Just like that.
Just like that. They must resign immediately. And this isn't just some theoretical, constitutional threat, especially in the era of coalition politics that really dominated after 1989. Several governments were actually forced to resign because they lost the confidence of the House.
Because it's so fragile.
Exactly. When a government is made up of 5 or 6 regional parties, losing the support of just one of them over some hyper-local issue can completely collapse the entire central executive.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We need to talk about the protests.
Ah, yes.
Because we opened this deep dive with the 1998 example of the fertilizer price hike. You have politicians screaming, literally walking into the well of the House, staging these massive walkouts. It leads to days of stalled sessions.
It does.
And I have to push back hard on this. Practically speaking, if they aren't voting, they aren't legislating. Isn't a walkout just a taxpayer-funded tantrum? I mean, how does storming out of a room actually serve you, the listener, who just wants the government to function?
I get that. I really do. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is very, very easy to dismiss these disruptions as just noise or chaos or just politicians failing to do their jobs.
Right, because that's what it looked like on TV.
But these are calculated political techniques. When an opposition party stages a walkout, they aren't throwing a tantrum. They are deliberately creating a crisis of legitimacy.
By refusing to participate, they basically deny the government the optics of a fair democratic consensus.
Exactly. Think about it. If the opposition simply sits there and votes no on a bill, they know they don't have the numbers to defeat, the government wins, and the news simply reports that a bill was passed.
Business as usual.
But if the entire opposition boycotts the session, the government is left passing laws in an empty room.
Oh, wow.
Right. It looks authoritarian. It forces the media to focus entirely on the controversy rather than the victory.
And it forces a compromise.
Yes. The 1998 rollback of urea prices by Yashwant Sinha that we talked about, and a very similar rollback of fertilizer prices by Jaswant Singh in 2002, are perfect examples.
Because they couldn't just ignore the optics.
Exactly. The opposition didn't have the raw numbers to defeat the budget on paper, so they used the spectacle of the walkout to exact real concessions. It's a strategic lever to force executive accountability when the formal arithmetic just isn't on your side.
Wow. So what does this all mean? The ultimate value of exploring all of this, the staggering of the Rajya Sabha, the daily interrogation of question hour, even the chaos of the walkouts, is realizing that this complex, sometimes deafening system is entirely by design.
It is.
Parliament isn't just a room where bureaucrats stamp papers. It's a deeply dynamic, highly representative arena.
Yes.
It's the place where your tax money is heavily guarded, where the regional diversity of your state is actually protected from centralized overreach, and where the most powerful leaders in the country are literally forced to stand up and justify their actions in front of the entire nation.
Every single day.
Right. It is built so that no single leader, no matter how popular they are, can act without being accountable to you.
It's a brilliantly engineered system of friction, but, it relies entirely on a very delicate mathematical balance of demographics and representation.
Which brings up a really interesting point.
It does. It brings up one final lingering mystery to think about.
Okay, let's hear it.
So we mentioned earlier that the 543 constituencies of the Lok Sabha, the exact map of direct democratic power in India were frozen based on the 1971 census.
1971.
It's been locked in place for over 50 years. But in that half-century, India has seen explosive population growth.
A massive growth.
And, crucially, massive unequal demographic shifts between the northern and southern states.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the profound question we are left with is this. What is going to happen when that freeze eventually thaws? Will the entire map of political power in the country have to be completely redrawn?
And if that map shifts, how will it change the balance of power between the states, the deeply entrenched political parties, and the two houses of parliament themselves?
It could change everything.
Will it trigger, the most intense political action this arena has ever seen? It's definitely something to keep a very close eye on, and something for you to ponder long after this deep dive ends.